face as he began to rise from his seat. His voice, calm yet sharp, cut through the heavy air very well. Then, I shall now treat you not as my son but as a challenger. Let's see what you've learned from her teachings. Theo's eyes widened in disbelief. His breath hitched as he thought, did he just say her? As I suspected, Father is the one who took Lodbrok's heart. But before his mind could fully process the revelation, an overwhelming horror gripped him. In an instant, Theo was struck down, split clean in two along with his sword. His mind froze in shock as he stared at his severed body, his vision shifting from his bisected form to Kyle, who stood still, his sword extended in the aftermath of a strike too fast for Theo to follow. His father's movements had been so swift, so precise, that Theo hadn't even realized he had been struck. Am I dead? Theo's thoughts spiraled as the weight of the moment began to sink in. The oppressive pressure around him grew heavier, suffocating his very essence, crushed him further, pushing him into the abyss of unconsciousness. Kyle's red eyes gleamed with a cold, unyielding seriousness. His expression was devoid of sympathy as he muttered, "Heart sword." The attack had been executed with ruthless precision, leaving Theo with no time to react or comprehend. A crow descended toward Kyle, perching nearby and chirping angrily at him, its cries filled with frustration. Kyle turned to the bird with a smirk, his calm yet sharp demeanor intact. "Worried about our little prodigy, are you?" he asked, amusement flickering in his tone. The crow flapped its wings furiously, its annoyed chirping growing louder. Kyle chuckled softly, then replied coolly, "You're not wrong. Only those with an unshakable will and unwavering resolve can break free from the heart sword." His gaze shifted back to Theo's lifeless form. "It's a harsh challenge, especially for a novice in the middle of the awakening ceremony. But if his resolve is weak, if it's only half-formed, then it's better for him to die here as a lost soul. I have no need for a regressor who will bring ruin to the clan." Theo's body stood frozen, unresponsive, like a lifeless statue. His consciousness had faded entirely, his blank eyes betraying no sign of life. Within the void of his mind, Theo found himself adrift in an endless emptiness, his soul fragmented and scattered, as if he were trapped in a genjutsu from the Uchiha clan. Am I dead? Theo's fragmented thoughts drifted through the void. I suppose that's only natural. Father cut me down. I have no regrets. I've done all I could. Piece by piece, Theo's broken soul began to dissolve, slipping further into the abyss. Despair clawed at him, whispering that it was the end. I stole the Camellia Palace. I killed Rendon and Axion. I took my revenge. As these thoughts consumed him, shadowy, fragmented hands began to form, reaching out to claim what remained of him. The deeper he sank into despair, the stronger the hands became, gripping tightly around his dissipating soul. His body continued to unravel, piece by piece, until only faint remnants remained. It was all just luck, Theo thought bitterly. This life was a blessing compared to my past. I've done enough. As the void swallowed him further, the dissolution of his body accelerated. The hands of despair wrapped tightly around him, pulling him into the darkness. As his face began to fade, Theo gave in completely to his despair. That's right. It's time for me to rest. I've done everything I could. His soul flickered for the final time before disappearing into the void, leaving behind only faint traces of his fragmented existence. But then, piercing the silence of the void, a voice rang out, strong and unyielding. "Hey now, Theo Ragnar," it said sternly. The voice reverberated through the emptiness, powerful and commanding. From the depths of the void, the griffin, the spirit of his sword, emerged, its presence overwhelming and radiant. Standing tall, its aura emanated pure power as it scolded him. "Enough already. Get up. If you were going to mope like this, you should have just let me devour you." Something deep inside Theo ignited, like the flicker of a dormant flame catching fire. Sparks began to dance within his fragmented soul, and slowly but steadily, Theo started to regain his senses. With each passing moment, His control over his emotions and mind grew stronger, and his soul fragments began to reassemble piece by piece. As clarity returned, Theo's voice, filled with gratitude, broke the silence. Yes, you're right. Thank you. The more he took hold of his emotions, the stronger his presence became. His resolve, once on the brink of shattering, began to solidify. In his hand, his sword began to reform, its edges gleaming with renewed power. With his grip tightening on the hilt and his breathing steadying, Theo's determination surged to the surface. I can't let this be the end, he said, his voice brimming with conviction. I swore it to myself. His eyes glowed brightly, reflecting a newfound strength and purpose. Drawing his sword back, Theo channeled all his might into the swing. As the blade cut through the void, he roared with unyielding determination. I might break, but I will never yield. The force of his swing tore through the darkness, and suddenly, a radiant light began to shine. It grew brighter with each second, a testament to the power of Theo's unwavering resolve. The light consumed the void, chasing away the shadows as Theo snapped back to reality. His eyes widened as he found himself once again in the real world, his consciousness fully intact. Standing in an attack stance, Theo felt a powerful aura surging from his body. Sparks crackled around him like lightning as his sword hummed with energy. He looked ahead, meeting the gaze of Kyle Ragnar, who stood before him with a serious expression. Kyle's lips curved into a smile, and his proud demeanor softened. Theo, my son, he said, his voice resonating with authority and satisfaction. You passed. Theo's heart swelled with joy, his eyes widening as the weight of the moment sank in. To be acknowledged by his father, the clan head, was an honor of immeasurable significance. For the first time, Theo felt the validation he had been yearning for. The scene shifted to the clan headquarters 1 week later. It was the day of the nomination ceremony, and the air buzzed with energy. Hulkus stood near the edge of the crowd, his large frame visibly tense. There are way too many people here, he muttered irritably. It's making me anxious. Standing beside him, Erica shot him a disappointed look. How can someone as big as you be so timid? She asked dryly, her tone laced with amusement. Her words immediately struck a nerve. Hulkus's face flushed red as he retorted, I'm not timid. You're just bold. His irritation only grew as he glanced around the gathering. Do you see how many people are here? Commanders of every unit, the 9 dragons, the former clan head, the current clan head. So many heroes all in one place. Erica gave him a sideways glance, her expression indifferent. You're such a baby, she said, her tone mocking. In her casual, unbothered way, she added, relax already. No one's going to pay attention to someone who couldn't even obtain elemental breathing. Hulkus's frustration hit its peak. Clenching his fists, he snapped, What did you just say? But before his temper could boil over, he deflated with a sigh. Deep down, he knew she was right. Lowering his voice, he asked, Just tell me already. What did the clan head give you during the second stage? Maintaining her calm and cool demeanor, Erica smirked. It's a secret, she replied nonchalantly. Hulkus groaned in frustration. You're so stingy, sis, he yelled. My Theo would have been cool about it and already shared. Erica turned to him, her eyebrows shooting up in surprise. My Theo? She echoed, her tone incredulous. What are you talking about? Hulkus grinned confidently and crossed his arms. You know the life of a Lank, don't you? He said. We're meant to be the sword of the Ragnar. Our lives are meant to serve them. He straightened his posture, his voice filled with excitement. In that case, I want to serve someone who's cool and strong. Someone who's got it all: power, character, ambition. For me, that's young Master Theo. Hulkus's face lit up with a wide smile as he continued. I want to bet my life on him. That's why he's my Theo. Erica stared at him, clearly shocked. And did Theo agree to this? She asked skeptically. Without missing a beat, Hulkus replied, his voice brimming with confidence. Does he have to? I wasn't asking for permission. I was just planning to join the same unit as him. Hulkus clenched his fists with renewed determination. I don't know why, he added, but the clan head said he's not taking Theo into the clan head's manor. So that means I'll have a chance to follow him. A smile spread across his face as he imagined the future. I'll bet everything on him. A sudden, thunderous beat of the ceremonial drum reverberated through the air, silencing the crowd and capturing everyone's attention. The coordinator, standing at the center of the stage, raised his voice, commanding, "Attention, everyone. The nomination ceremony shall now commence." The arena, filled to the brim with eager spectators, fell silent as anticipation rippled through the crowd. The coordinator continued, his voice steady and proud. To begin, we are honored to announce the overall valedictorian, Theo Ragnar. Please step forward. In the midst of the gathered crowd, Theo Ragnar stood tall and resolute, his presence commanding as always. Beside him were Remington and Ray, their faces beaming with pride for their comrades' incredible achievements. A wave of cheers erupted from the arena as the crowd chanted Theo's name in unison, their voices carrying the weight of admiration. "Theo! Theo! Theo!" they roared, the sound echoing like a victory cry. For Theo, this was an unfamiliar yet overwhelming moment. He had never imagined his name would be celebrated so openly, let alone by an entire arena. With his head held high and a determined glint in his eyes, he stepped forward, his proud smile reflecting both his newfound resolve and the acknowledgement he had long sought. From a distance, Evelyn watched the scene unfold, a soft smile playing on her lips. Her thoughts lingered on the young man standing at the center of it all. "Everyone is watching you closely now, young Master Theo," she mused. "Where will you choose to go?" Her heart briefly fluttered with a selfish hope. If only he would join the white armored dragon cavalry. But that's just a dream. As Theo stepped into the spotlight, the crowd's applause roared like a tidal wave. The coordinator, his voice warm with admiration, greeted Theo with a smile. "Congratulations, Theo Ragnar, on being named overall valedictorian. Your ability to excel in every category was nothing short of awe-inspiring." He paused, his words deliberate, preparing to continue. Now then, before the coordinator could finish, a sudden movement rippled through the crowd. All eyes turned as Ed, the Sky Dragon and director of the Central Intelligence Bureau, strode toward the center of the arena. His unexpected appearance sent a palpable wave of unease through the gathered audience. Murmurs broke out among the spectators. Even Theo's comrades from training ground for exchanged anxious glances. "What's he doing here?" one whispered. "Is he here to avenge Axion?" Another speculated, their voices filled with tension. The unease wasn't limited to the crowd. From his seat, Kyle Ragnar, the clan head, narrowed his piercing eyes at Ed's sudden entrance. The other members of the 9 Dragons mirrored his guarded demeanor, their stances subtly shifting as if bracing for the worst. The coordinator, clearly unsettled, addressed Ed with measured politeness. "Central Director, I'm not sure what your intentions are, but I must ask you to kindly return to your seat." But Ed paid the coordinator no heed. His steps were deliberate, his focus solely on Theo. Theo's gaze hardened as he met Ed's eyes, his expression unreadable but sharp. Inwardly, his thoughts raced. "Sky Dragon, I expected this. He must still be reeling from Axion's death. But even he wouldn't dare to disrupt the nomination ceremony." Ed, however, shattered all expectations. His lips curved into a grin, and instead of hostility, a cheerful expression crossed his face. Extending his hand toward Theo, he said in a voice loud enough for all to hear, "The Central Intelligence Bureau would like to offer you the position of Deputy Director." The arena fell into stunned silence. Gasps rippled through the crowd as whispers broke out like wildfire. Theo, caught off guard, narrowed his eyes, his thoughts racing. What is this man's game? He wondered, his mind already working through the implications. Why now, and why in front of everyone? The scene shifted, now centering on a mysterious egg surrounded by an air of significance. A voice narrated, hinting at the deeper meaning behind Theo Ragnar's triumph as valedictorian. For Theo, Rising to the top during the ceremony wasn't just an achievement, it was symbolic. Even as a member of the powerful Ragnar lineage, he had once been seen as the lowest of the low, a shadow of potential rather than its embodiment. A faint crack echoed from the egg, and a fissure formed along its gleaming surface. Slowly, as the crack widened, an intense red eye glimmered from within, radiating raw power. The scene shifted again, and above the clouds, a majestic dragon soared across the sky, wings outstretched, its presence commanding and untouchable. Just as the dragon rose to the heavens, so had Theo Ragnar, emerging from the depths to claim his rightful place in the skies. The narrative returned to the bustling ceremony, where murmurs spread among the crowd, their disbelief palpable. Whispers of skepticism hung in the air like a storm cloud. Even if Theo's strong, there's no way he killed Axion alone, right? One voice questioned. Another scoffed, adding, I heard that if he hadn't been stopped, he would have been killed by the supervisor himself. A third chimed in, the doubt tinged with reluctant awe. Still, isn't it true that his power overwhelmed Axion? How is he this skilled? Despite the doubts and whispers, the story of Theo Ragnar had already begun to change hearts. He was no longer the dismissed underdog but a rising legend, one whose climb from obscurity to greatness inspired admiration. With each passing moment, the number of Theo's admirers grew, steadily drowning out the voices of his critics. As Theo stood tall, declared the victor of the awakening ceremony, the once contemptuous gazes of the crowd were gone. In their place were looks of respect, awe, and even reverence. Now no one dared to look at him with disdain. In that moment, every eye in the arena was fixed on the new god of the Ragnar clan. Suddenly, a translucent system notification appeared before Theo. The message read, Congratulations! You have secured first place in the awakening ceremony. Quest completed. Reward, Ether Core. Sent to inventory. Theo blinked, momentarily dumbfounded. Oh, right. There was a quest tied to this, he thought, his lips curling into a bemused smile. He chuckled inwardly, realizing how focused he'd been on everything else. I completely forgot about it. As his eyes skimmed the notification, curiosity flickered. Ether Core. This was a pretty long quest. Maybe the system gave me something worthwhile. Theo's amusement faded as his attention shifted to Ed, who still stood before him with that unsettling smile. The offer to join the Central Intelligence Bureau as deputy director hung in the air, heavy with implications. Suspicion brewing, Theo activated his observe skill, locking onto Ed with sharp focus. The system screen shifted, displaying detailed information about Ed. But what Theo saw made his jaw tighten. Ed's hidden intentions, wishes to adopt Theo Ragnar as his hunting dog to unearth the secrets of the ancient dragon relics. A chill ran down Theo's spine as his expression darkened. So, that's what this is about, he thought, his gaze hardening. The relics of the Taigo dragon. He knows I have one. A flicker of anger ignited in Theo's chest, growing into a spark of defiance. His fist clenched tightly as his resolve crystallized. From now on, Ed, nothing will go your way. And as for Trovian, his eyes burned with determination. I'll destroy you myself. Meanwhile, Julius, sitting at the high table, seethed with barely contained fury. Watching Ed's brazen move, he slammed his palm against the armrest of his chair, the sound reverberating through the hall. His voice boomed with indignation. What are you doing, Director of the Central Intelligence Bureau? Ed turned toward Julius, an irritated expression crossing his face, though his smile didn't waver. What's wrong with recruiting exceptional talent? He replied smoothly. Everything I've done here is perfectly within the guidelines of the nomination ceremony. Julius wasn't buying it. His eyes narrowed, his temper flaring as he rose to his feet. Do you really think everyone here is a fool? He barked, his voice heavy with fury. We all know exactly what this is about. You're trying to take out your anger over your nephew's death. The hall fell into tense silence, the weight of Julius's accusation hanging heavily in the air. Ed let out a low chuckle, his tone dripping with mockery as he responded. I understand your concerns, but you're mistaken. Sure, I may harbor personal feelings of anger, but as the director of the Central Intelligence Bureau, my focus remains solely on recruiting the most talented individuals. Julius gritted his teeth, his irritation practically radiating off him as he stared down Ed. You truly are a wicked man, Julius thought bitterly. Even with your nephew dead, you can't seem to think of anything beyond your ambitions and goals. Just as the tension reached its boiling point, the coordinator intervened, his booming voice slicing through the heated atmosphere. Enough, he commanded, his tone sharp and authoritative. I understand the desire to secure the best talent, but let's not forget, the process has yet to begin. Please restrain yourselves. The coordinator then turned his gaze toward Theo, his expression softening. Theo Ragnar, have you made up your mind, or do you need more time to decide? Theo, standing tall and unflinching, replied with calm confidence. Actually, I haven't decided yet. A small grin played on his lips as he placed a hand over his chest in a gesture of respect. That's why I'd like to hear all the offers first. The crowd buzzed with anticipation as Theo's confidence shone through. His eyes gleamed with determination, and the slight smile on his face made it clear. This was his moment. He shifted his gaze upward, scanning the 9 dragons and the clan head, waiting to see what they would bring to the table. Suddenly, a hand rose from the crowd, and the arena hushed. It was Osa Ragnar, her expression serious and resolute. With her commanding voice, she declared, I, Osa Ragnar Plunis, offer Theo Ragnar not only the chance to become my personal disciple, but also the position of Junior Lord of the Plum Blossom Palace. Gasps erupted across the arena, and the crowd broke into an uproar. Did she just say Junior Lord? One onlooker exclaimed in disbelief. Another chimed in, his face a mix of shock and awe. Lady Plum Blossom doesn't have children of her own. That means she's essentially offering to adopt Theo. He'd become the successor to the Sword Dragon. Theo's smile widened as he processed Osa's offer. I expected this from her, he thought, his confidence unwavering. Meanwhile, Remington, who stood nearby, was taken aback. His eyes lit up with excitement as he said, 2 of the 9 dragons have already stepped forward. Young Master Theo, you truly are incredible. Hulkus and Erica exchanged glances, their faces alight with surprise and joy. Erica, her voice tinged with admiration, said, most commanders and directors won't even come close to competing with offers like these. But before anyone could say more, a thunderous voice echoed across the arena. I'd like to throw my hat in the ring as well. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. Suddenly, a deafening crash shook the arena, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Dust filled the air, obscuring the figure at the center of the impact. As the dust settled, gasps and murmurs spread like wildfire through the crowd. Standing in the middle of the arena was a man clad entirely in black bandages, his presence radiating an overwhelming aura of power and mystery. It's the Black Dragon, someone in the crowd shouted, their voice trembling with disbelief. The arena erupted into chaos. No one had anticipated this. Robert Ragnar, the Black Dragon and head of Black Snow, had entered the fray. Robert's piercing gaze locked onto Theo, and with a grin of enthusiasm, he spoke. Theo Ragnar, I've been observing you throughout the awakening ceremony. Theo's eyes narrowed slightly as he processed Robert's words. He's been watching me? Since when? Robert continued, his tone steady yet brimming with intrigue. Kyle was right about you. You're quite interesting. Then, his expression turned serious, his voice firm and unwavering as he made his offer. Come to Black Snow. I'll give you the rank of Null Snow. The crowd gasped once again, the weight of the offer settling over them like a heavy fog. Black Snow, the shadowy intelligence agency, was known for its secrecy and its agents' anonymity. But the rank of Null Snow, that was different. It was the highest rank within the agency, a title that allowed its holder to operate publicly, attaining both fame and honor, a rarity in their covert world. Theo's mind raced, his thoughts flashing back to his past life. When I was in black snow before, there were only 8 null snows. I worked tirelessly to reach that rank, yet it always remained just out of my grasp. He clenched his fists subtly, the weight of this new opportunity settling over him. And now it's being offered to me so easily. As the tension in the arena hung thick, Pharaoh Ragnar, the Zenith Dragon, cleared his throat, the sound cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. His voice was steady, his tone authoritative as he spoke. Theo Ragnar, your performance during the 3rd stage left quite the impression. I trust you haven't forgotten about my Zenith Academy. Gasps rippled through the audience. Pharaoh's entry into the fray sent waves of surprise across the arena. One member of the crowd, jaw practically on the floor, muttered in disbelief, "Even the Zenith Dragon? That makes 4 out of the 9 dragons." Another, a woman with a sly smile playing on her lips, added, "And don't forget, there's still one more." The commander himself. All eyes shifted to Julius Ronner, the demon dragon and commander of the white armored dragon cavalry. His expression hardened, his gaze unwavering as he turned to Theo. With a stern voice, he declared, "The white armored dragon cavalry will not offer any special treatment to Theo Ragnar." The crowd was stunned. What? He's choosing now of all times to stick to his principles. One man blurted, his face contorted in shock. But another woman, her eyes filled with quiet admiration, thought to herself, as expected of our commander, he believes true honor is earned, not given. Julius closed his eyes briefly, exhaling as though the weight of his decision had settled firmly on his shoulders. When he opened them, his voice softened slightly, though it still carried his commanding presence. "My desire to recruit him is immense, but I will not bend the rules. Offering him special treatment would be a disservice to the other recruits." He folded his arms across his chest, his tone steady and resolute. "The only thing I can guarantee, Theo Ragnar, is our full support for your development and the pride of being a dragoon." The crowd whispered amongst themselves, a mix of approval and disbelief at Julius' unwavering stance. Standing at the center of the arena, Theo remained calm, his expression thoughtful as the offers from the 9 dragons echoed in his mind. Slowly, he closed his eyes, a small, grateful smile forming on his lips. His voice, calm yet filled with warmth, carried across the arena as he said, "I understand, and I thank you all for your generous offers." He opened his eyes then, and they sparkled with enthusiasm and determination. A confident smile spread across his face as he began, "In that case, I will choose." But before he could finish, a sudden transmission echoed in his mind. A voice, calm, deliberate, and eerily knowing, spoke directly to him. "You're a regressor, aren't you?" Theo froze, his heart pounding violently in his chest. A chill ran down his spine as the words sank in. His secret, the one he had worked tirelessly to protect, was out. Someone knew. Anxiety gripped him as he scanned the crowd, his sharp eyes darting from face to face. Who sent that transmission? He thought frantically. Who knows my secret? His breathing quickened, but then his heightened perception allowed him to trace the source. His gaze shifted upward, locking onto the section where the 9 dragons and the clan heads sat. There, the sender of the transmission wasn't just anyone. It was Hilda Ragnar, the former clan head. Sweat beaded on Theo's forehead as his expression tightened. His voice, though steady, carried an undertone of unease as he responded telepathically, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Hilda, sitting regally among the clan heads, smiled at Theo. Her voice reached him again, calm yet piercing. "Oh, come now. I don't know what kind of life you lived in your previous cycle, but your acting is truly remarkable. Impeccable, even." Theo's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. Cycle? He thought, panic bubbling beneath the surface. What is she talking about? Could there really be a set number of regressions? As the gravity of Hilda's words hit him, the tension in his body was palpable. He was so caught in the whirlwind of his thoughts that he barely registered the coordinator's voice calling out to him. "Theo, is something the matter? You don't look well," the coordinator asked, his concern genuine as he noticed Theo's uncharacteristic shift in demeanor. Quickly composing himself, Theo straightened up, masking his unease behind a calm facade. "Could I have a moment to gather my thoughts?" he asked, his voice steady but with a hint of weariness. The coordinator nodded, his tone understanding as he replied, "Of course. This is an important decision, after all." Theo nodded back, his expression neutral, but inwardly, his mind raced. "Hilda Ragnar, who exactly are you? And how do you know my secret?" Hilda smirked, her gaze steady as she observed Theo's restlessness. Through the transmission, her voice echoed in his mind, calm yet laced with amusement. "There's no need to hide it. After all, I am also a regressor, though the cycles permitted to me have now come to an end." Theo's expression hardened, his narrowed eyes betraying the storm of thoughts raging within him. She said it again. He thought to himself, her words striking a nerve. Cycles. She's implying she's regressed multiple times. But how is that possible? Could there be more regressors out there? So how many? And I'm dealing with a former clan head, no less. His mind spun as he weighed his options. Finally, he made up his mind. If there was one person who might have answers, it was her. It would be faster to confront her directly. "What do you mean by that?" Theo asked through the transmission, his tone sharp and probing. "That one can regress multiple times?" Hilda chuckled softly, her amusement evident. "Wait, don't tell me you don't know? Kyle must not have told you anything." She tilted her head slightly, her calm demeanor only adding to the tension. "I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. Kyle hates regressors. It's a wonder he let you live." Theo froze, her words hitting him like a thunderbolt. Anxiety gripped him tighter. "Father knows?" he thought, his mind spiraling. "Is that why he gave me such a brutal challenge? Was it not a test of strength but of something deeper?" Hilda leaned forward slightly, her smirk growing wider as she observed Theo's unease. "You look like you have a lot of questions," she said, her voice tinged with mock sympathy. "Unfortunately, we don't have the time to address them all right now. If you want to learn the secrets of this world, and of our clan, then you'll have to come find me. We'll finish this conversation when you're ready." Her words hung in the air like a storm cloud, leaving Theo standing utterly shaken. Though he maintained a stoic exterior, his mind was in turmoil. "They know my secret," he thought, struggling to maintain his composure. The memory of the third stage of the ceremony flashed through his mind. During that trial, he thought, Father gave me no answers. The only thing he presented me with was the heart sword. If Father truly hates regressors, then Lodbrok's energy, which I sensed back then. Theo's thoughts spiraled further. The stolen heart of Lodbrok. Was it really Father who took it? Lodbrok is an ancient dragon who welcomes regressors. Could that be why? He gritted his teeth, trying to piece together the puzzle. A human defeating an ancient dragon sounds impossible, he mused. But for Father, a man who is practically a demigod, it might not be beyond reach. If nothing can be hidden from him, then... Theo exhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. His hands trembled ever so slightly, but he forced a faint smile to his lips. I have no choice, he thought. If I want to uncover the truth about the clan and its connection to regression, I'll have to seek out Hilda. Before he could dwell on it further, the coordinator's voice broke through his thoughts, cutting the tension. Now then, Theo Ragnar, he called out, his voice commanding yet expectant. Has your heart decided where you will go? The arena fell deathly silent. The crowd leaned in, every eye fixed on Theo. They were waiting, hanging on to his every move, desperate to hear his answer. Theo brushed aside his lingering anxiety, straightened his posture, and plastered a confident smile on his face. His eyes sparkled with determination as he spoke, his voice ringing clear and strong across the arena. Yes, he said firmly, I have decided. The scene shifted to Remington, who stood tall with unwavering confidence. A proud smile spread across his face as he declared, I will select the Zenith Academy. A satisfied grin formed on the Zenith Dragon's face as he witnessed the second highest ranked participant in the ceremony choosing his faction. Meanwhile, Theo, watching the moment unfold, felt a surge of happiness rise within him. So, Remington chose to become the Zenith Dragon's disciple, he thought. It makes sense, both of them used the water current breathing technique. This must have felt like the natural path for him. Then, a memory from his past life surfaced in Theo's mind. Back then, Remington returned to the Narshio clan to grow stronger, and eventually led a rebellion against the Ragnar clan. Snapping back to the present, Theo's eyes widened like a cat spotting its prey, and an unstoppable grin spread across his face. But this time, he didn't leave Ragnar. This is another change, another ripple I've caused. As if sensing Theo's thoughts, Remington turned to him. The two comrades extended their hands, shaking firmly in mutual respect. "This is just a temporary farewell," Remington said with certainty. Theo, filled with pride, nodded. "Let's do our best in our places and meet again." Stronger, Remington smirked, his respect for Theo evident in his expression. "Of course, young Master Theo. I'll be looking forward to our reunion." The two warriors who had fought side by side, endured countless trials, and forged an unbreakable bond, locked eyes for a moment. They felt proud of how far they had come, of the obstacles they had overcome. With that, they bid each other farewell. Theo then shifted his thoughts to Ray Ragnar, and warmth filled his chest. As I expected, Ray returned to Daffodil Palace, where her mother, the Ice Dragon, resides. There's no place better suited for her. His mind then turned to Sybil and the others from Training Ground 4. They had wanted to follow him, but their grades hadn't been high enough to join the faction he chose. A bittersweet feeling settled in his heart. "It's a shame parting ways with my comrades," he thought, "but our paths don't end here." The coordinator's voice boomed across the arena. "With this, the nomination ceremony is officially concluded. Good work, everyone. You are all dismissed." Theo exhaled slowly, tilting his head back to gaze at the vast sky above. A fresh wave of excitement coursed through him, fueling his determination. "Even though we've parted ways, I'm certain everyone will still give it their all. Our journeys are just beginning." Just as he was lost in thought, a voice called out to him. He flicked his eyes to the side, curious to see who it was. It was none other than Hulkus, grinning from ear to ear, sweat still glistening on his forehead. "Hey Theo, I didn't think we'd end up in the same unit," he said, laughing. Hulkus and Erica approached, the former radiating his usual carefree energy. However, the moment the words left his mouth, Hulkus suddenly started laughing nervously and even blushing. Erica, rolling her eyes at her brother's ridiculousness, internally sighed. What a complete moron. Theo raised an amused eyebrow at both of them, his expression caught between amusement and confusion. And just like that, he thought, "I've made some new friends." Turning toward them, he offered a friendly nod. "Nice to see you guys here, and thanks for all your help back at the second stage. You guys saved me back there." Erica's cheeks flushed ever so slightly, though she quickly composed herself, trying to appear nonchalant. Crossing her arms, she smirked and said, "You better not forget that you owe me big time," but inwardly her thoughts were a mess. Strong guys are the best. Damn, he's so cool. Her brother, however, had no such filter. Without thinking, Hulkus blurted out, "Damn it, Theo, I like you." The moment the words left his mouth, both he and Erica turned bright red, realizing the unintended implication. Trying to play it off, the two burst into laughter at their own blunder. Meanwhile, Theo stood there, completely baffled. His expression twisted in confusion as he thought, "What's up with these two? Why are they suddenly so into me?" Just as Theo and the others were deep in conversation, a commanding voice cut through the air. "Attention! The commander is coming." The announcement sent a ripple through the gathered recruits, and in an instant, all eyes turned in anticipation. Theo stood tall, his expression one of deep respect, a determined smile forming on his lips. "No matter what happens, my goal remains unchanged. The White Armored Dragon Cavalry, the most honorable unit in Ragnar, is the perfect place to lay the foundation for my path to becoming clan head." Then, striding forward with an aura that could shake the heavens, came Julius Ronner, the demon dragon himself. His very presence commanded attention, and his powerful frame exuded confidence. As he approached, a broad grin stretched across his face. "Congratulations," he declared, his firm voice carrying through the air. "You are now members of the White Armored Dragon Cavalry." Even though Theo had encountered Julius many times before, this moment felt different. The sheer weight of his aura was overwhelming, pressing down like the presence of an apex predator. No doubt about it, Theo thought. I'll go see Hilda later, but right now, I need to focus. Julius continued his approach, each step more authoritative than the last, as if the ground itself acknowledged his presence. He stopped before the recruits, scanning them with sharp, piercing eyes. Then, with a confident smirk, he spoke again, his voice laced with authority. "Now, let's hear the declarations of our fresh recruits." The first to step up was Hulkus. With determination blazing in his eyes and an eager grin, he declared, "I want to become an awesome dragoon." Another recruit, despite his obvious nerves, clenched his fists and shouted at the top of his lungs, "I want my name to be known far and wide." Erica, standing at attention with perfect posture, her face serious and unwavering, spoke with ironclad resolve. "I want to be the strongest of my generation." A third recruit, his voice thick with emotion, bellowed, "I want to be acknowledged by you." "Commander." One by one, the recruits laid bare their ambitions. And then, all eyes turned to the one who had yet to speak. Theo, the new recruits, the veteran warriors of the White Armored Dragon Cavalry. Even the seasoned officers. Everyone waited, eager to hear what he had to say. Theo stood still, his posture perfect, unwavering beneath their gazes. As he inhaled, a memory from his past life surfaced. The Great War, 5 years from now. He clenched his fists. Then, snapping back to the present, his voice rang out, filled with unshakable confidence and iron-willed determination. "I will become the commander of the White Armored Dragon Cavalry." Within 5 years, a heavy silence fell over the crowd. Some recruits exchanged wide-eyed glances. A senior member of the cavalry smirked, shaking his head slightly. "This kid's got guts," he thought, saying that right to the commander's face. Bold. Julius, however, did not seem offended in the slightest. Instead, he threw his head back and let out a hearty, booming laugh. "Dreams should be grand," he declared. "Very well. You came to the right place." His gaze swept across the recruits, his expression turning serious. The weight of his words hung in the air as he continued. "No matter your reasons for choosing this cavalry, there is only one thing you must remember." Julius slowly raised his fist before the new recruits, his tone unwavering as he declared, "Every drop of blood and sweat you spill will be immortalized in the legends of Ragnar. Today's hardships will become tomorrow's pride. Our shield does not break, and our swords do not yield." The new recruits, inspired by his words, felt a surge of energy ignite within them. Determination flickered in their eyes as their hands curled into fists, standing even taller than before. Julius took one final look at them, his voice ringing with conviction. "Your comrades will always have your back." His gaze hardened, and in turn, you will always have theirs. A newfound fire burned in the hearts of every recruit present. With a confident grin, Julius continued, his voice filled with conviction. "Waiting at the end of a road forged in blood and sweat is glory." As he spoke, he tilted his head upward, his sharp eyes locking onto the sky above, where a massive figure soared against the clouds. Then, with an almost theatrical grace, he turned back to the recruits, spreading his arms wide. His voice, booming with pride, carried through the air. "Congratulations on becoming part of the White Armored Dragon family." Just as those words left his lips, the sky trembled. A shadow loomed over the ground, growing larger by the second, and before anyone could fully grasp what was happening, boom! A colossal force slammed into the arena behind Julius, shaking the very earth beneath them. Dust and debris burst outward as cracks split the ground. Yet, amidst the chaos, Julius remained utterly unfazed. Standing firm, he didn't even flinch. When the dust settled, gasps of astonishment filled the air. There it was, a dragon, a magnificent beast, its scales glistening under the sunlight, its powerful wings still partially spread from the landing. The recruits, their eyes wide with awe, all had the same thought at once. A flying dragon, it's the commander's partner. The mighty dragon lowered its head, bowing in complete submission before Julius. With the utmost familiarity, Julius reached out and petted the beast's snout, his expression softening. "This is my partner, Gullah," he introduced with unmistakable pride. "He is a dragon, the very symbol of us dragoons." Just as the recruits were beginning to process this overwhelming sight, the sky darkened again. One after another, dozens of dragons soared into view, their majestic figures carving through the clouds. Their mighty roars echoed across the arena as they began their descent, landing behind Julius in perfect synchronization. The earth trembled beneath their sheer presence. The recruits could do nothing but stare, mesmerized. Then Julius's voice snapped them back to reality. "Now, get on your seniors' dragons." Excitement, nervousness, and sheer disbelief mixed on the faces of the new recruits, including Theo, who stood frozen, his mind struggling to keep up with the breathtaking sight before him. Dragons, their riders, the legendary white armored dragon cavalry. Julius swung himself onto Gullah's back with practiced ease. Then, gripping the reins, he turned to the recruits with a fiery glint in his eyes. "We will now begin the admittance test." With that, he gave Gullah the slightest nudge, and the dragon shot into the sky like a rocket. Theo's jaw dropped. The sheer speed, the synchronicity between rider and beast, the effortless way Julius commanded the dragon to take flight. "So this is a dragoon?" Theo thought, sweat forming on his brow. "And I'll get to have a flying dragon of my own." Just then, a familiar voice cut through his thoughts. "Let's go, young master." Startled, Theo turned to the source, his eyes widening in complete shock. There, mounted atop a dragon with effortless grace, was Evelyn. She looked down at him with a bright smile, her expression filled with warmth. Theo was so taken aback that he nearly stuttered. "Evelyn, what are you doing here? Have you returned to active duty?" Evelyn's smile widened. She gave a small nod. "Yes, it sort of happened." Theo barely had time to process her words before something else caught his attention. His gaze dropped to her arm. His breath hitched. His mind raced. Her arm? That prosthetic? When did this happen? Confusion, shock, and 1,000 questions flooded his mind all at once. "Evelyn, your arm," he finally managed to say, his voice laced with disbelief. "How? And when did this happen?" A few days ago, the training grounds were quieter than usual when Cecilia and her mother arrived. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and steel, the sound of blades clashing echoing in the distance. Evelyn, focused on her drills, halted as she noticed their presence. She wiped her brow and straightened up, only for Cecilia to step forward. Her cheeks tinged with a faint blush as she placed a hand over her chest. "Evelyn, I wanted to thank you," she said earnestly. Behind her, Curson exhaled a slow stream of smoke, watching silently. Evelyn blinked, momentarily thrown off by the unexpected gratitude. She quickly bowed her head. "Lady Camellia, Madame Curson." Then, raising her head, she continued in a steady voice, "If this is about young Master Theo, I assure you, there's no need. His talent would have flourished with or without my involvement." Cecilia chuckled softly. "That may be true, but being acknowledged by someone dependable is more powerful than you think." Her voice carried warmth, the kind that made words linger long after they were spoken. Evelyn opened her mouth, but before she could respond, Cecilia's expression turned knowing. "And from what I've heard, you were that person for my Theo." Evelyn froze, caught completely off guard. She hesitated before shaking her head. "No, I'm just a retired one-armed swordswoman. That's all." Cecilia's smile didn't waver. Instead, she took a step closer, her voice turning soft but firm. "Lights that guide others through the dark often don't realize how brightly they shine," she said. "Miss Evelyn, you are one of those lights." Evelyn, who had stood her ground against countless enemies, who had endured battle after battle, now stood speechless before Cecilia's words. "And so," Cecilia added, "let me help you shine even brighter." For the first time in a long while, Evelyn didn't know how to respond. She simply stood there, caught between disbelief and something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Now, in the present, that hope had turned into reality. Theo sat behind Evelyn as they soared through the skies on her wyvern, the wind cutting against them as they raced toward the dragon nest. The horizon stretched endlessly before them, the vast landscape below dotted with valleys and jagged cliffs. Evelyn glanced back at him, her voice carrying a lightness he hadn't heard in a long time. "Thank you, young master. I heard you called in a favor for me, and thanks to you I can hold the reins again. I've returned to the white armored dragon cavalry." Theo closed his eyes briefly, letting a small smile creep onto his face. "Even though this is something I should have taken care of myself, Mother must have given me the credit." His thoughts drifted to Cecilia, and he chuckled softly. "That's just like her." Evelyn's grip on the reins tightened slightly as her voice took on a determined edge. "I, Evelyn Nereville, pledge to be your loyal sword, young Master Theo." Hearing that, Theo's expression softened. "Thank you for everything, Evelyn, and please look after me from now on." Their wyvern descended toward a valley, and as they landed, Theo finally took in his surroundings. The nest of the white dragons. It was more than just a nesting ground, it was a kingdom of wyverns. Dozens of them perched on high cliffs, some soaring in the skies while others lay basking in the sunlight. The sheer size and presence of these creatures made the air feel heavier, as if the land itself bowed to their existence. Evelyn stepped forward with a knowing smile. "This is the nest of the white dragons, home to the flying wyverns." She gestured toward the valley. "Since our cavalry operates on wyverns, this is where we hold the admittance test." Theo scanned the area, his excitement momentarily replaced by a thought. He turned to Evelyn. "And if someone fails to find a partner, they fail, right?" Evelyn exhaled. "Yes. Though rare, it does happen." Theo thought back to Erica and Hulkus. He rolled his eyes slightly. "I wonder how the Lank siblings are going to handle this. This test doesn't seem like their thing." "Well, they'll figure it out." Evelyn's expression softened as she gestured toward the valley. "Come on, let's take a look around. Usually, you'll just know when you find your partner." A thunderous stomp suddenly shook the ground beneath them. A massive wyvern emerged from behind the rocks, its hulking form casting a shadow over the land. Its muscular limbs dug deep into the dirt as it moved, the sheer weight of its steps making the very earth tremble. Theo and Evelyn instinctively ducked behind a boulder, their eyes locked onto the beast. Theo's heart pounded, but not with fear, with excitement. Evelyn smirked slightly. "That young master is an Opteryx." Her voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable respect in her tone. "A monster dragon species, a tyrannical predator. They grow up to 15 meters tall, and once they claim a territory, few creatures dare to challenge them." Theo's lips curled into a grin. "A tyrannical predator, huh?" As Theo and Evelyn continued their exploration of the nest, they stumbled upon a massive creature slithering across the rocky terrain. Its elongated, serpentine body coiled effortlessly, its violet scales shimmering under the sun's light. "That's an aviarai," Evelyn said, her tone measured. "These dragons can release a toxic mist, and that stinger at the tip of its tail?" Evelyn gestured toward the sharp, gleaming barb swaying behind it. "One sting, and you'll be meeting your ancestors." Theo exhaled slowly. Noted, they decided not to linger. Moving further into the nest, they arrived at a quieter, more secluded area where another species caught their attention. Unlike the lethal aviarai, this one seemed almost docile, its thick, earth-toned scales blending seamlessly into the rocky ground. "Asigia," Evelyn murmured, "a blade dragon species. Normally burrowers, they nest underground and rarely emerge." Unless they sense danger, they ambush their enemies from below. Don't underestimate them. Taking to the skies once more, they ascended above the cliffs. A pack of small, agile dragons zipped through the air, their movements rapid and coordinated. Theo barely had time to take them in before Evelyn spoke, her tone sharp. Velociraptors, speed dragon species. Don't be fooled by their size. They're incredibly smart and hunt in packs. They can also breathe. A flash of orange. One of the velociraptors inhaled deeply before spewing out a jet of flames, forcing Evelyn to yank the reins sharply. Their wyvern swerved just in time, narrowly dodging the attack. Fire, Evelyn finished, her voice flat. Theo let out a nervous chuckle, rubbing the back of his head. Yeah, no thanks. We'll let them have their airspace. As they climbed higher, Evelyn's gaze softened. That covers the main wyvern categories we manage, she explained, shifting into a more instructive tone. The cavalry primarily works with these 4 types. So what do you think? Did you get a feel for any of them? Theo exhaled, rolling his eyes slightly. A feel, he muttered, his fingers curled slightly, his thoughts drifting to a memory from his past. 6 years after the Great War had begun, something had shaken the foundation of the white armored dragon cavalry, a mutant wyvern. It had stormed through the nest of the white dragons like a living nightmare, slaughtering nearly 100 of the wyverns raised by the cavalry. The evil shadow dragon. Theo's mind replayed the chaos of that day. 8 villages burning under a blood-red sky, dozens of swordsmen perishing in the battle, their blades shattering against a foe that lurked where they could not strike. Ragnar had branded the evil shadow dragon as a Class 2 calamity and issued an extermination order. And in the end, it had taken 2 legendary dragons to bring it down. The demon dragon, Julius, and the sword dragon, Lady Plumblossom. But what had made the evil shadow dragon truly terrifying was its ability to disappear into the shadows. Theo's grip tightened slightly. A partner with that kind of potential. That's what I'm after. Before he could finish the thought, his eyes caught something in the distance. A group of wyverns had gathered at a cliffside ahead of them. Something inside him stirred. A feeling, an instinct. He knew. It's there. A small smirk tugged at the corner of his lips as he clenched his fist inwardly. Finally, meanwhile, elsewhere in the vast dragon nest, another figure stood in silent observation. Julius sat on a separate cliff, arms folded as he surveyed the nest. His dragon rested beside him, its sharp eyes scanning the surroundings as well. A faint sound of footsteps broke the quiet. Julius turned his head slightly, watching as another presence approached. The sword dragon, OSA. A small grin played at the edges of Julius's lips as he tilted his head slightly. His eyes gleamed with a rare excitement. Wouldn't it be strange if I wasn't happy? He mused. A dragon I've been anticipating has fallen right into my grasp. OSA gave a small nod of agreement, but her expression remained composed. Perfect, she said smoothly. That's exactly why I'm here. Julius raised an eyebrow at her words, mildly surprised. OSA stepped closer, her lips curving into a small, knowing smile. Commander Julius, she said, her tone light yet pointed. You're planning to make Theo a pillar of your unit, aren't you? Julius remained silent, his sharp eyes narrowing ever so slightly at OSA's words. She studied him for a moment before continuing, her voice smooth but pointed. Careful with your words, as always. That's so very like you. Her lips curled slightly. Running one's mouth carelessly is a fool's folly. Julius didn't react, but OSA's gaze sharpened as she met his eyes, her expression turning serious. You're painting a far bigger picture than I originally thought. Still, Julius didn't say a word. He maintained his calm demeanor, his posture unwavering, before finally speaking in a measured tone. I haven't said a single word. OSA let out a small chuckle and took a step closer, her tone firm but friendly. Relax. I'm not here to pry. She paused before adding, I came to make a proposal. For the sake of that child. That caught Julius's attention. His gaze flickered with intrigue as he asked, What do you have in mind? Still composed, He allowed a faint smirk to tug at his lips. Theo has already chosen my cavalry. He can't go to Plum Blossom Palace anymore. So what kind of proposal could you possibly have? Osa turned toward the open cliffside, her stance unwavering. Then, with a confident yet almost playful tone, she declared, "Joint mentorship." Julius blinked, momentarily thrown off by her words. Osa turned back to him, her smile widening with excitement. "What do you say, demon dragon?" For once, Julius's usually unreadable expression wavered, his sharp composure momentarily cracking as he processed her words. Meanwhile, back near the gathered wyverns on the cliff, Theo and Evelyn were closing in. Evelyn's expression darkened the moment she laid eyes on the scene before them. "TCH, those rascals are at it again." Theo, his brows raised in curiosity, asked, "You know that bluish-white wyvern down there?" Evelyn's voice took on a stern edge. "He's been bullied for a while now. We've tried everything to stop it, but nothing has worked." She sighed, her frustration evident. "He's been ostracized for not being a wyvern." That made Theo's eyes widen. His puzzled expression deepened as he turned to her. "Wait, what? He's not a wyvern?" Evelyn nodded, her expression unreadable. "No. He's the offspring of a female wyvern and a male viper." At that, Theo's shock intensified. His jaw tensed, his mind racing. "Hold on, vipers? As in Class 1 demonic fiends? The ones that live deep in the sea?" His voice carried both disbelief and concern. "How the hell did one reproduce with a wyvern?" Evelyn's gaze remained steady as she turned to face him fully. "That's the mystery," she admitted. "By all logic, his birth should have been impossible." Theo fell silent, his thoughts spinning. He knew what Class 1 demonic fiends were: living calamities, creatures that stood on par with typhoons. A single one breaching the Great Wall could leave nothing but devastation in its wake. And vipers? Powerful, ghost-type monsters that lurked within the shadows of forests. Theo exhaled sharply as the realization clicked. A slow smile crept onto his lips as he thought inwardly. So that's it. The evil shadow dragon's abilities came from inheriting the blood of a viper. His gaze snapped back to the wyvern below. Evelyn, noticing his shift in expression, continued. His birth caused an uproar within the white armored dragon cavalry. In the end, they decided to accept him into the nest and keep an eye on him. But the other wyverns, she sighed, they would never accept him. And isolating him isn't a solution either. Theo's eyes softened slightly as her words struck a deeper chord. Ostracized for something beyond his control. Something about that resonated with him. His voice was quiet but firm as he asked, "Does he have a name?" Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Umbra. It means shadow in the ancient language." Theo's expression brightened instantly, and his lips curled into a wide grin. "Shadow, huh?" His eyes gleamed with excitement. "That's a damn fine name." Without hesitation, he suddenly leaped to his feet on the dragon's back. Evelyn's breath hitched. "Young master, what are you doing?" Theo's grin only widened. "Isn't it obvious?" His voice carried sheer exhilaration. "I'm picking him as my partner." Evelyn paled. "What do you mean by that?" Before she could finish, Theo jumped. A gasp tore from Evelyn's throat as she watched him plummet toward the cliffside below. "Young master!" she screamed, her voice carrying across the skies. But Theo only smirked as he descended. "I'll help you live a different life this time, Umbra," he thought, his resolve firm. "Just like me, you'll have a second chance." As he landed on the cliff, lightning crackled at the point of impact, illuminating the moment with raw energy. As Theo leaped off Evelyn's dragon, a cocky smirk spread across his face. With a playful glint in his eyes, he threw a quick salute and called out, "I'll meet you down there." But while he treated the situation like a casual stunt, Evelyn's expression was anything but relaxed. Panic shot through her as she reached out, her voice laced with concern. "Theo, what the hell are you?" But her words barely reached him. His focus was already locked onto his target. Determination burned in his eyes as he plummeted through the air, his fingers moving with practiced precision. Mid-descent, he reached into his inventory, yanking out a series of gleaming swords. One by one, he hurled them downward, each blade slicing through the wind like missiles. The moment he had unleashed the intended number, his irises flickered with an electric blue glow. His skill, Hatchling Synchro, activated, its description flashing briefly in his vision. You can now use telekinesis to move designated targets. A crackling aura of blue energy erupted around the swords as Theo's power took hold. The blades halted mid-air, frozen in place like stars suspended in time. Without hesitation, he dove onto the nearest one, landing with cat-like precision. But he didn't stop there. His movements became a blur as he hopped from sword to sword, each one held aloft by his telekinetic control, closing the gap between him and the battle raging below. Evelyn could only stare, her breath hitching. What the actual hell? This wasn't some high-level knight with years of mastery. This was Theo, the same Theo she trained with, the same reckless fool who was now moving through the sky like it was his personal playground. Her voice barely concealed her shock as she muttered, "Since when could the young master use telekinesis? And like this?" Then, almost to herself, she whispered in disbelief, "His growth rate, it's unreal." Meanwhile, Theo's gaze locked onto the bluish-white dragon below. It was surrounded, hounded by a pack of wyverns that snapped and clawed, pushing the beast into a corner. The dragon, fed up, let out a deafening roar, a clear warning to the lesser creatures. "Back off. Don't test me." But the wyverns showed no signs of stopping. As Theo closed the distance, an old memory surfaced. One he had buried deep but never truly escaped. His training ground, the sneers of his so-called peers. Their taunts rang in his mind like ghosts of the past. Is he really a Ragnar? Even for a bastard, this level of weakness is embarrassing. The sting of their words fueled the fire in his chest. He clenched his jaw, pushing the past away. Not this time. If no one had ever stepped in for him, then he sure as hell wasn't going to stand by and watch someone else, something else, face the same torment alone. His eyes darkened with resolve. He activated his elemental lightning skill, channeling raw energy into the floating swords. One by one, the blades hummed with power, flickering with arcs of golden electricity as he infused them with everything he had. His thunder dragon breathing took effect, amplifying the charge. The air around him sizzled, static crackling in the silence before the storm. Then he moved. Still mid-air, Theo yanked his hands downward in a powerful motion. The charged swords shot forward, streaking toward the ground like bolts of judgment. The moment they struck, a massive electrical explosion erupted. A surge of white-hot energy engulfed the battlefield, sending shockwaves rippling outward. The wyverns recoiled, screeching as the sheer force of the blast sent them scattering into the skies, their will to fight instantly shattered. Theo landed smoothly amidst the chaos, the battlefield now silent except for the hum of residual energy still sparking in the half-buried swords. He watched as the wyverns retreated, his attention shifting to the dragon, who now turned its massive head to face him. With slow, deliberate steps, Theo approached the beast. His lips curled into a smirk as he clicked his tongue. Running at the first sign of real power? Bullies always turn out to be nothing but cowards with masks.